Hi and welcome to another chess video. I'm Vladimir from Iceland, and we're going to continue with our Kramnik appreciation. I'm here with Demi, my dog. She has been very upset that Kramnik retires, her favorite player of course. So we're going to look at another one of my favorite games from Kramnik, and this one is from the book Kramnik Life and Games. Currently don't have my copy with me, but I'm just going to give you sort of my impression of the game. And I think it's a very nice game. It's a positional game. The first game we looked at was more of a attacking game with a very nice finish. But I think to become a good chess player you have to appreciate games like this as well. And I think this is a very nice example of the strength of the bishop pair. But let's get on to it. Kramnik had the white pieces, and his opponent was the Russian grandmaster Ulybin. I think Ulybin for a long time was an assistant to Anand. Could be wrong on this, but that's what my memory is telling me, so I'm going with that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, okay, Kramnik played d4, which was more or less what he was playing during those years. We have e6 from Ulybin, which of course welcomes the French defense if white were to go e4. But Kramnik, e4 is of course the French defense, and d5. But Kramnik didn't really become an e4 player until later in his career, when he added e4 to his repertoire. So he played c4 here against Ulybin. We have knight to f6, knight to f3, which invites, well, black to play d5, queen's gambit decline, b6, the queen's Indian, or what Ulybin played, bishop to b4, which is the Pogo Indian. And a very solid opening for black. Kramnik goes with the main line here, bishop to d2. We have queen to e7, and we follow the most played moves here, g3, knight to c6, knight to c3. Here black castles. That and bishop takes c3 are the main moves here, but castles is what Ulybin went with. Usually we transpose here, and bishop d2, and now black takes on c3. And of course this does give white the bishop pair, but black gets the opportunity to eliminate it right away if he wants after knight e4. So as in many openings, the Nimzo, the Pogo, and the queen's Indian, black is more or less playing for control of the e4 square, or restricting white's control of the e4 square. So here black occupies it, white plays rook c1, we have d6 from black. He has given up the black square bishop, so very often he will put pawns on black squares, so e5 is a very likely move to happen. And now d5 by Kramnik, again following common theory here, and here knight d8 was played. The most common move is to take on c3. You can of course do that as well, but in that case the game takes on a different character. The knight can go to either b8 or d8. Vladimir leaving, but Kramnik won. Okay, fair enough. She's still sad. Yeah, actually she had to pee, so we had to pause and come back. Yeah, so we can play knight d8 or knight b8 here, and the game takes on a different character. Having taken on c3 can be useful, but it also allows white to immediately strike here with c5. And yeah, many games in this line, one of the main lines against the Pogo. But Ulybin played knight to d8. D takes on e6, knight takes e6, and this gives white the opportunity to save the bishop, and Kramnik goes for that. He plays bishop to b4. And the main idea is to preserve the bishop. Of course it's better placed on this diagonal than this one, but the idea is that eventually you hope to reroute it maybe here and here after playing b2 and get it on this diagonal where it's eyeing the black king sets and where the king is residing. Black goes bishop d7 here. c5 also does seem to come into consideration. And if white retreats, maybe b6 and bishop b7. Unless, well, okay, there could be some tactical problems here actually, so maybe black doesn't have time for this. But this is a normal development if you can reach it for black. But in this game he played bishop d7. The potential problem with this, however, is that white can grab the full bishop pair with Kramnik's next move. Very nice move. He played knight to e5. So utilizing the pin here on the d6 pawn, and of course attacking the bishop. Black sort of can't move the bishop now because we are attacking the knight here. So he has to give up, well, the full two bishops here. We do have a cheeky move. Okay, he played knight 6 to c5, but we do have a cheeky move here, queen f6. But it's not more than that. We're threatening mate here, so we don't have time to take on d7. We can take on e4, but now we can take on b7. And maybe black can sack the exchange, take on b2, rook b1, and then we take on a8, but probably that's not enough compensation. And the problem with not taking on b2 is like rook a to b8, we play bishop c3, attack the queen, protect the pawn, and then move the bishop back. f3 or t2, and we are up a pawn. So knight 6 to c5 was chosen, and Kramnik takes on d7, so now he has the bishop pair against the knight pair. And yeah, white's job is to show that the bishop pair is superior, but black's strategy is more or less a holding one here. He wants to try to maintain this knight here on e4. First he plays a5 here, and the idea is to, yeah, sort of cement his position here on the queen side. After bishop a3, rook f e8, b3, he plays b6. So black is playing a little bit for a very nice control over this c5 square here. You can put a knight there at some stage and yeah, try to hold on to this knight on e4, which at the moment is not so easy to push away, because if you play f3, you are weakening some squares and maybe your pawns as well. So it's a give and take situation. Bishop to b2. So the bishop finally arrives at the intended diagonal. Black plays rook a to d8, more or less to get out of the pin. Queen to d4. And black prevents the mate threat on g7 by playing queen to f6. And here Kramnik goes for the queen trade. Queen takes f6 and bishop takes f6. Rook f d1, h6. So, a very nice looking position. You have the bishop here, but how do you improve the position? Well, Kramnik is an expert at this. He just slowly but surely improves. There's no rush here. White has a positional advantage, but there's no rush to prove it. So first he plays e3. Now the pawn is protected. And notice that on both wings we're sort of following the Capablanca rule, which is to have the pawns on the opposite color of your bishop. Same thing here. So they work well with the bishops. Black, when you have the bishop pair, you want to have an outpost, but you really don't have an outpost, because although this square is pretty nice, it's a temporary outpost, because we can always push f3 when we're ready. So the knights don't really have a great outpost. c5 is a nice square, but not much more than that. Knight d7 now, and king f1. So sort of a queenless middle game, close to the end game. So it's safe to bring the king closer to the center. King f1, it's coming to e2, and does so after rook to e7, rook d2, e8, and black trying to hold on to this centralized knight on e4. Now, on this move, or the previous ones, black could have thought about f5, and the idea would be to increase the control of the e4 square. But on the other hand, this could become a weakness and give white a target to open up the position. You can immediately play a move like rook d5. Once we play h3 and g4, things will start to open up, and you no longer have the option of going f6 to blunt this bishop. So pros and cons, and Ulybin decides not to play the f-pawn. And now he kind of no longer has the option after g4 by Vlad. Two pros. It's pros and cons, right? Yeah. So the pros are that we're preventing f5, and we also getting ready to expand with h4. So after g4, rook e6 was played, and now h4. So slowly but surely white is improving. The king has gone to the center, we have expanded on the king side. But still nothing tangible. Bishop f3. The bishop improves slightly. Now it's protecting the pawn, and it went off the g file, so now if you go to g1, we're ready to support whatever will happen on the g file. The bishop is not in the way. Knight d to c5. The only nice square really for black, and also supporting the knight on e4. But rook d5, and yeah, we're sort of laterally supporting the g5 push here, getting ready to push g5. Let's say if black makes a blank move like this, then we can play g5, and we're starting to make some progress. So black played knight to a6, and the idea is to play knight to b4, hitting the pawn and the rook. But in doing that, you did relieve the pressure on the b3 pawn, and I can now play a3, protect this square, and I don't need protection of this pawn because there's no knight on c5. So after knight comes back to c5, now I'm ready to push b4. A takes b4 is probably the most practical move. Maybe black needs to think about sacking a pawn here, but he takes on b4, which is the normal move to make. Knight comes to a6, and despite giving up the c5 square with b5 here, we do gain nice control of all the light squares here once the diagonal opens for the bishop, and also after the forced move of the knight, we now have rook to a1, and now Vlad has control of the only open file on the board. So bishop pair, looming expansion on the king side, and now we are starting to think about stuff on the queen side. So play on both sides, but still white hasn't broken through. Now knight f6, and Kramnik really likes the bishop pair because it looks like taking on f6 is a good choice here. The computers like it, but Vlad didn't go for it. And even though optically it looks good, and probably white is still for choice, definitely. I mean, how do we break through? It's a question. Like, we can put the rook on a7, but this is defended. We can attack stuff with the rook here or here, but simply king g7 defense. So we'd have to break through, and still there's a lot of work to be done. And Vlad prefers to play rook d to d1 here, and hold on to the bishop pair. Sort of keep the dynamic possibilities of the white position. The knight comes back to e4 now, so black desperately trying to hold on to the e4 square and keep his position solid. Rook a7, king f8, and still black is seemingly very solid, but here comes a very nice move by Kramnik. It's not one that the computers will prefer. They will not dislike it. They say white is still better after it, but it looks like something that we might see AlphaZero play today. And here Kramnik, he sacrificed a pawn. He played g5, and the idea is to increase the scope of his bishops. After black takes, which is more or less forced, if you don't, then get the g file and some weaknesses to work with. You can't play h5 because of the bishop, so you more or less have to take. And now Ulybin took on g5. And this allows this bishop to get more life, and it goes to c6, gaining a tempo because the rook has to move, rook c8, and now black is in trouble because white is combining play on both wings. We already have the a file, pressure here, now we're threatening mate on the h file, and penetration, and the bishops are fantastic. This one is good, and this one is lurking. So it's pretty cool that you can make a positional pawn sacrifice in an ending like this, and Black is just absolutely crushed here. Okay, he plays king g8, stopping the mate. But now having opened the 8th file, Vlad moves all his pieces over to the king side. He plays rook a to a1. He wants to swing this rook over to the king side, which has now been opened in white's favor. Ulybin tries to bring more pieces to the king side to defend, but now rook to h4, and white is threatening to double on the 8th file, give mate, and if you don't do anything, the rook will hang if you make luft, so you have to make luft immediately, and he does so with f6. But rook g1 now. And note that we have f4 incoming at some stage. King f7. We could play f4, but Vlad preferred bishop to d5. Not allowing any complications. I mean, f4 is a move, but maybe black can take here. There's a pin, so you have to take with the rook, and I can play this. And maybe it's not so clear. There might be... no. So there's no need to allow any complications. Just play bishop d5, pin the knight. f4 is coming soon. King goes to e8. Rook h8 check. Knight blocks. You can't protect the rook because bishop c6 is mate. So knight f8. But now f4. And all the pieces work together beautifully. Now we made this knight passive. Now we're pushing this knight back, and there are no outposts anymore for the knights. So they have to retreat and stay passive. Small threat here on f4, but easily preventable with king to f3. No rush, just improving the pieces. Fantastic. Black is already close to Su Shuang. He played f5 here, and that allows another nice move, rook to g6, utilizing the pin on this guy, so he can't take it, and now we're trying to take this. Knight c5 was played, king f7 looks natural, but now there's a new pin, so we can take on g7. Knight c5 was played, getting the knight out of harm's way, but bishop takes g7. Everything's dropping, rook f7, desperation, but too little, too late. Bishop takes f8, and Ulybin resigned. A fantastic game by Vladimir Kramnik. Great display of the power of the bishop pair, and it's very rare to see such a positional pawn sacrifice in a late middle game / endgame type position, and Kramnik executed it beautifully. One of his best games for sure. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will definitely be bringing you more games from the career of the great 14th world champion Vladimir Kramnik. Hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and some comments if you appreciate the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.